Hi, it's Lindsay Diane from DianeDecor.com. In this video, I'm going to share with you 6 ways to make cheap decor look expensive. Now, a while back, I did a video on how to spot cheap decor, and I'm going to link that in the description below. And this is going to give you a basis for why some of the things look cheap. In a nutshell, it can be the coloring, the size of an item, the texture of an item. Those tend to be hallmarks for what can make an item look really cheap. Really, we want inexpensive items, we want budget finds, we want to save money, but we don't want our things in our home to look cheap. And so here's how you can take some of those budget items and make them look a little bit more high-end. Let's get started. The first way to make cheap decor look more expensive is to pair them with a higher end item. This takes your cheap item out of isolation, and you aren't likely to scrutinize it quite as much when it's in a setting with other items. So to do this, you might have a vignette of items, maybe 3 or 5 pieces that are all together, and you have one piece that maybe is from the Dollar Tree, but other pieces are, thrifted, or you have something that's really high end in the mix, and together collectively they will make a nice setup. Another way to do the high and low is to use statement lighting. So you may spend a little bit more on your chandelier or your table lamps or your floor lamps, but go cheaper on your curtains or on your vases, on a decorative bowl, on little decorative accessories. This is another way to do the high-low thing. Sofas, furniture, usually sitting furniture, I tend to go a little bit higher end on, especially items that you're going to get a whole lot of use out of. So you might go high end on your sofa, but then go cheap on your decorative pillows or pillow covers. You may go high end on your coffee table, but on the little accessories and the trays on top of your table, go cheaper. You can also pair a lot of the inexpensive glassware that you may find at Dollar Trees. So champagne flutes and wine glasses and any other colored glasses that you may want for particular table settings, go ahead and pair that with your nice china or your everyday dishes to create a beautiful tablescape. This is a really great way to kind of mix in some of those cheaper items into your decor in a way that they don't stand out quite as much. The next way to make a cheap decor item look more expensive is to add a little bit texture for some dimension and depth. Now, like I said, I did a whole video on what really are the hallmarks of some of the cheap decor, what makes something that's inexpensive look cheap, and a lot of the time it's that it lacks texture. When you think about high-end pieces, you want to go for something that's a little bit more handmade, handcrafted, bespoke. You don't want something that's cookie cutter, cast in a mold and a little plastic resin mold and popping out vase after vase after vase after vase that's completely uniform. You would like to ideally go for something that has a little bit more texture and at least mimics the look of something that could be handmade. So to do this, there are actually a lot of really inexpensive options. So let's say, again, for example, you have, let's say, a little glass vase from the Dollar Tree. You want to add a little texture to that. You can use a drywall spackle to create this look. Use a little, usually the kits, you can actually buy the drywall patch kit, and you can get a little jar of the spackle, and you can get like a little trowel to go with it, and you can just go along and make some texture. I did this project a long time ago. I actually did it with a Tide dish detergent container that was like bright orange, and I was able to cover it completely with the drywall spackle, and it gave it a really nice, beautiful textured look. So you can do this on some of the outside of your smooth vessels or vases or bowls to give it a little bit more texture. You can also do the trick where you add in some baking soda to your paint. So let's say you may have chalk paint, you can add in some baking soda to give it like a coarse, grainy effect and use that to paint it on to create your own texture paint. And then of course you can spray paint with the stone spray paint that already has that kind of texture as a finish. So there are a lot of options to go ahead and add a little texture to an item. Mod Podge is also another option. You can do Mod Podge with a napkin or a cloth and then paint over it. Again, there are a lot of options to do it inexpensively. You can mix sand with paint as well. So think about adding a little texture to your cheaper items to give them a more high-end look. Number 3 is to stick with solid neutral colors for your decorative accents. There are lots of really cute decorative accents at the dollar store and Five Below, but a lot of the times the color gives them away. Either they have a really poor paint job that makes them look a little bit cheesy, or they're in bright colors that you don't really want. You know, you may find a really great planter, but it's like teal, or it's bright yellow, or it's orange. Go ahead and either paint these items so that they are a solid neutral color, or the next time that you're going into the store, target only those. So you want a white, a cream, a tan, a beige, a black. Matte is even better. So if you can find something in a matte finish, even better. Or you can go for something with a metallic finish. That would work as well. So a gold, a bronze, a silver, a copper, anything like that would work great. Just stay away from the bright colors because they really are a hallmark of cheap decor, and you're going to have a harder time mixing it in with the items that you already have in your home. Something that often happens when you have cheap production is that the patterns don't actually match up seamlessly. I'm sure you've seen this with clothing before, where the seams really don't line up, and so you have half of a bird here and the other half up here instead of them coming in seamlessly with one another. This is something that you can avoid if you just go with a neutral solid altogether. Tip number 4 is to repot your artificial plants for a more luxe look. So usually when you get cheap artificial plants or trees, they come with a teeny tiny little pot as a base. And this is just, 1, it's out of proportion and it will stand out. And 2, it tends to have your items look lower to the ground and therefore smaller, which also makes your decor look cheap. So instead, go ahead and repot these items. When you get a larger planter, you can pad the base if you need to help elevate your plant or your bush so that it gives the appearance of being much larger than it really is. The bigger the better, frankly, when it comes to plants and decor. You want something that is robust, that can fill out a corner, that can fill out a planter box. Something that looks too small for the space is really just going to throw off your entire design. So make sure that when you buy your artificial plants, if they're in a teeny tiny little pot, go ahead and repot them. Another reason to repot them is because you have the opportunity to then choose a neutral solid that's textured. So when you go to pick out a planter for that, go for something nice like a terracotta planter. Go for something that's stoneware that has a nice texture to it but is otherwise neutral. You can even go for a nice higher end plastic planter that's also textured. That's actually what I have back here for the tree in the background here. I will show a picture of the actual planter itself. This, again, I've mentioned this before, the tree was a cheap find. It was probably not originally cheap, but for me, I got it at Goodwill for like $7 or $8. But the actual pot, I invested a little bit more in. And it's very big, very heavy, even though it's plastic, and it just gives it a much more high-end look. So make sure that you repot your artificial plants for a more luxe look. Next is to layer your textiles for a more expensive look. So when I say textiles, I mean things like your blankets, your inexpensive throw blankets that you may find at, let's say, Five Below. Five Below is also really great for rugs, but they're usually a 5x7 size, which is on the smaller size. So think about layering these things up. You can layer them on your doorstep, so you can use a 5x7 as a layering rug on your doorstep, and then you put your doormat on top of it, which is odds are a bit smaller than that, for a nice layered look, and you have a really high-end look when you do that layered doormat thing. You can also layer your rug on top of a carpet if you want to create, let's say you're doing a little cozy reading nook and you have a little rug. You can layer that on top of a carpet to create a nice little seating area that looks high-end. You can also layer on your smaller blankets on top of your sofa, or layer it on top of your bedding that's already on your bed. So if you want to use a smaller blanket that's of course not going to fit a king size bed or a queen size bed, instead it's really meant to act as a throw blanket, you can just throw it over the edge of the bed or fold it over the end of the bed and have a really nice look. And this is a great way to disguise in some of these cheaper items with your more high-end decor. Last but not least is to swap out your pulls and knobs on your furniture for higher end versions. So a lot of the time when we buy inexpensive furniture from Walmart or Target or Amazon, the handles that come on them are plastic and they look really cheap. And one of the easiest ways to give your furniture a higher end look is to swap them out for some real metal handles and pulls. These are, again, it's an inexpensive investment to upgrade your handles. This is just going to take you a minute to do. All you need is a screwdriver to do it. Make sure you measure your pulls, the width of your pulls, so that your holes line up. Go to Amazon, find some gold pulls. Go to Home Depot. They're inexpensive there. You might get them $2 a piece at Home Depot. Look for something that is just a little bit stylish. One, you want something that's actually metal. And two, look for something that maybe has some kind of engraving or embossing or some kind of fluting or tapering to it, just something that gives it a little bit more of an elevated look, and swap those out for the ones that came with your dresser or your desk or whatever you have. Swap them out and you will instantly have a high-end look for an otherwise cheap piece of furniture. You can really make your personality shine when it comes to knobs and pulls. You can look for a vintage find. You can go for something super sleek and matte black. You could go for some of the knobs are made out of marble or other types of really pretty decorative stone. There are a lot of different options. You can also especially find really cool, unique knobs on Etsy. So you can find little geode knobs and things like that. The sky's the limit when it comes to knobs and pulls. So don't limit yourself to the cheap plastic stuff that came with your drawers. Moreover, if your drawers did not come with pulls at all, this is, again, an easy job. You're just going to bore a quick with your cordless hand drill. You're going to bore a quick hole, and then you can screw in handles or knobs and upgrade the look of your cheap furniture. That's it for this video. I hope you found it helpful. Don't forget to visit me at DianeDecor.com. I post all about home decorating tips and tricks over there. I thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.